The first hints of trouble came not with a bang, but with a whisper of electromagnetic disturbance. Deep within the Global Defense Initiative's Underground Monitoring Center, Dr. Emily Rodriguez watched the holographic display flicker with an unsettling pattern. Her fingers, long and precise, danced across the quantum interface, filtering through layers of cosmic background noise. "We've got something," she murmured to her team, her voice carrying the calm of a veteran scientist who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Outside, the world continued its usual rhythm. In New York, commuters rushed through subway tunnels. In Tokyo, office workers finished their late-night shifts. In Lagos, street vendors packed up their wares. None of them knew that humanity's greatest test was about to begin. The Zorn Collective approached with the precision of a mathematical algorithm. Their fleet consisted of thousand-year-old technology refined through countless conquests. Massive ships that defied traditional understanding of physics glided through the solar system's outer reaches. Each vessel was a monument to technological superiority, equipped with weapons that could shatter planetary crusts and communication systems that could crack most civilizations' defenses in moments. Admiral Krillak studied the planetary target with clinical detachment. Earth was just another conquest, another civilization to be cataloged and assimilated. Previous reports suggested a fractured, primitive species, perfect for rapid subjugation. Their intelligence networks had mapped human conflicts, political divisions, and technological limitations with what they believed was perfect accuracy. What they didn't understand was the nature of human preparation. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Colonel Jack Harper reviewed the incoming astronomical data. Beside him, a team of specialists from every conceivable background worked with an almost musical coordination. Quantum physicists conversed with military strategists. Linguistic experts compared notes with cybersecurity professionals. Each person represented a carefully selected piece of a much larger puzzle. "Incoming transmission," announced Michael Chen, the lead communication specialist. His fingers moved across holographic interfaces with practiced efficiency, filtering and analyzing data streams that would overwhelm most computational systems. The first Zorn communication arrived exactly as predicted by the Global Defense Initiative's predictive models. A standard conquest protocol, broadcast across multiple frequencies. Most civilizations would panic. Most would send desperate negotiations or futile military responses. Earth did neither. "We've been expecting you," Dr. Rodriguez responded, her voice carrying an almost bureaucratic neutrality that would later become legendary. Aboard the lead Zorn vessel, translation algorithms worked overtime. Admiral Krillak found the human response peculiar. No fear, no desperation, just a simple acknowledgement that suggested something beyond traditional understanding. Unknown to the Zorn, humanity had been watching. Not just watching, preparing. Project Prometheus was more than a defense strategy. It was a complete reimagining of planetary potential. Every conflict, every technological breakthrough, every cultural innovation had been methodically cataloged and transformed into a comprehensive planetary defense mechanism. The command center buzzed with controlled energy. Satellite networks that appeared to be commercial and communication infrastructure were actually sophisticated monitoring systems. What looked like ordinary cell towers could become defensive platforms in milliseconds. Entire cities were designed with adaptive infrastructure that could transform from civilian to defensive zones faster than the Zorn could comprehend. "Transmission analysis complete," Michael Chen announced. "They're expecting a traditional conquest scenario." Colonel Harper allowed himself a slight smile. "Then let's give them something unexpected." Outside, the first Zorn ships began to position themselves in Earth's orbital space. Their sensors mapped potential landing zones, identified key infrastructure, calculated subjugation probabilities. Each calculation was precise, each movement calculated with centuries of conquests as reference. What they didn't realize was that every single one of those calculations was being watched, analyzed, prepared for. The silent predators were about to discover that their prey was anything but helpless. In orbit, in underground command centers, in research facilities around the globe, humanity held its collective breath. The greatest test in the planet. The Rocky Mountain Command Center was a symphony of controlled chaos. Holographic displays flickered with global data streams, each screen a window into a carefully orchestrated network of human potential. Colonel Jack Harper moved between workstations, his military-issued boots making no sound on the reinforced carbon composite floor. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stood at the central console, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces that looked more like living art than technological equipment. Around her, a team that defied traditional classification worked with unprecedented synchronization. A former street programmer from Mumbai sat next to a retired NASA engineer. A linguistic expert from Sao Paulo conversed in rapid shorthand with a quantum cryptography specialist from Seoul. Project Prometheus was more than a defense strategy. It was humanity's most ambitious collaborative effort, a global initiative that had been quietly preparing for decades. System integration at 97.3%, announced Michael Chen, his voice calm despite the magnitude of what they were achieving. Each team member represented a carefully selected node in a planetary defense network that transcended traditional military thinking. The preparation had begun long before the Zorn even knew Earth existed. In the aftermath of humanity's most significant global conflicts, something remarkable had happened. Nations that once fought each other began sharing critical research. Technology that was once jealously guarded became a collaborative resource. Every major conflict, every technological breakthrough, every cultural innovation had been methodically studied and transformed into a comprehensive planetary defense mechanism. Climate change research became advanced adaptive infrastructure technology. Cybersecurity developments transformed into complex communication networks. Medical research provided insights into biological and psychological resilience. What appeared to be separate fields of study were actually intricate pieces of a global survival strategy. Colonel Harper reflected on the journey. 20 years ago, this level of global cooperation would have been impossible. Political divisions, economic competitions, cultural differences, all had seemed insurmountable. But a series of global challenges had forced humanity to evolve. The first breakthrough came unexpectedly. The collaborative project between Indian and Chinese research teams developed a quantum communication network that could adapt faster than any known computational system. What looked like a simple communication technology was actually a revolutionary approach to collective problem-solving. Simulation complete, called out Dr. Laura Martinez, a complex systems expert. Her display showed thousands of potential invasion scenarios, each analyzed and prepared for with meticulous detail. The Zorn believed they were approaching a divided, primitive planet. They would soon discover the truth. Each team member in the command center represented a carefully cultivated skill set. The street programmer brought innovative problem-solving approaches. The NASA engineer understood complex system integration. The linguistic expert could decode communication patterns at unprecedented speeds. The quantum specialist could predict computational strategies before they were implemented. Global research facilities were not what they appeared to be. What looked like standard universities, technology parks, and research centers were actually nodes in a planetary defense network. Educational institutions had been quietly transforming their curricula. Instead of competing, they were collaborating on unprecedented levels. Adaptive infrastructure models are stable, reported Jennifer Wong, a civil engineering specialist. Her displays showed entire city infrastructures that could transform from civilian to defensive zones in milliseconds. Roads that could become landing platforms, buildings that could become defensive structures, power grids that could become weapon systems. The preparation went beyond technology. Psychological research had provided insights into human adaptability that defied traditional understanding. Humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, but its capacity to solve problems collectively, to adapt, to transform. Colonel Harper watched the team with a sense of quiet pride. This was not a military operation in the traditional sense. This was a planetary immune response, a collective intelligence preparing to defend itself. "Final system check," he announced. The room fell into a moment of absolute focus. Thousands of global systems synchronized, communication networks aligned, defensive strategies integrated, years of preparation condensed into a single moment of potential. "We are ready," Dr. Rodriguez said simply. Outside the mountain facility, the world continued its usual rhythm. Nobody except the carefully selected team that represented humanity's best hope. The silent preparation was complete. The real challenge was about to begin. The first wave of Zorn attack vessels breached Earth's atmosphere with calculated precision. Massive energy signatures lit up global monitoring systems, a display of technological might that had conquered hundreds of civilizations before. Each ship was a marvel of destructive engineering, designed to neutralize planetary defenses in minutes. In Chicago, what appeared to be a standard residential block suddenly transformed. Buildings shifted, their external facades peeling the way to reveal advanced defensive systems. Solar panels became energy weapon arrays. Reinforced windows converted to missile launch points. Entire city blocks reconfigured with a fluidity that defied traditional urban design. Residents who moments ago were drinking morning coffee now moved with military precision, each person a carefully trained component of a larger defensive strategy. Colonel Jack Harper watched the live feeds from the Rocky Mountain Command Center, a ghost of a smile crossing his face. "Defensive Protocol Omega activated," Michael Chen announced, his fingers dancing across quantum interfaces. The Zorn's initial attack patterns were textbook. Systematic approach vectors, targeted infrastructure strikes, psychological pressure tactics that had worked on countless civilizations before. But Earth was not those civilizations. In Texas, a suburban neighborhood became a nightmare for the alien invaders. What looked like typical American houses transformed into a mobile defense platform. Garage doors opened to reveal advanced weapon systems. Lawn sprinkler networks became sophisticated cooling mechanisms for defensive equipment. Neighborhood watch groups moved with a coordination that suggested years of secret preparation. Dr. Emily Rodriguez monitored the global response, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding on the displays. "Adaptive response at 92% efficiency," she reported, her voice steady. The Zorn attack groups found themselves facing an impossible scenario. Their computational models, built on centuries of planetary conquests, began to fail. Every predictive algorithm collapsed as human infrastructure demonstrated an unprecedented level of adaptability. In Sao Paulo, a community center transformed into a communication hub. Local residents who moments ago were practicing community programs now operated advanced communication jamming equipment. Their diverse backgrounds, programmers, teachers, former military personnel, worked with a synchronization that bewildered the alien attackers. "Energy signature modification detected," Jennifer Wong called out. Her display showed how human defensive systems were not just responding to the attack, but actively learning from it. Each Zorn strike provided data, and Earth's defense network immediately adapted. The naval vessels in the Pacific Ocean were not what they appeared to be. Cargo ships converted into mobile defensive platforms. Fishing boats became sophisticated sensor networks. Commercial shipping lanes transformed into a complex defensive grid that moved with liquid grace. Admiral Krillax watched the attack feeds with growing confusion. The preliminary reports suggested total planetary neutralization within 30 minutes. Instead, each strike met with an impossible response. Cities that should have been destroyed reconfigured. Infrastructure that should have collapsed became more robust. Computational error, his primary tactical officer reported, confusion evident in the translation. Human response defies current tactical models. In Lagos, a street market became a nerve center of local resistance. Vendors who moments ago were selling produce now operated sophisticated communication intercept equipment. The cultural diversity became a defensive strength. Multiple language groups, varied skill sets, a collective intelligence that moved faster than any centralized command structure. Colonel Harper understood the true nature of the defense. This was not a traditional military response. This was a planetary immune system in action. Each community, each infrastructure system, each individual was a potential defensive node. Global adaptive response at maximum efficiency, Michael Chen reported. The Zorn attack groups found themselves in a scenario they had never encountered. Cities that should have been destroyed continued to function. Infrastructure that should have collapsed became more complex. Every strike provided the human defensive network with more information, more adaptation potential. Dr. Rodriguez watched the global response with a sense of quiet pride. Years of preparation, decades of collaborative research, a planetary strategy that defied traditional military thinking, all condensed into this moment. The first wave of the alien assault was failing, and humanity was just getting started. Across the planet, in command centers, community halls, research facilities, and unexpected locations, humanity demonstrated a truth the Zorn had yet to understand. Adaptability was the most powerful weapon of all. The true nature of human technological capability began to reveal itself in layers of increasing complexity. What the Zorn perceived as primitive computing became a living, breathing network of unprecedented intelligence. Michael Chen sat at the core of the most sophisticated technological warfare center in human history. His team, a diverse group of the world's most brilliant minds, worked with a synchronization that defied traditional understanding of collaborative technology. Programmers from Delhi worked seamlessly with cybersecurity experts from Tel Aviv. Machine learning specialists from Tokyo coordinated with quantum computing researchers from Cambridge. Initial breach confirmed, Chen announced, his fingers moving across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living data. The Zorn's communication networks, considered the most secure in the known galaxy, began to unravel. It wasn't just hacking. It was complete technological re-engineering happening in real time. Each alien communication channel became a gateway for human understanding. What should have been a simple intrusion turned into a complete deconstruction and reconstruction of alien technology. Zorn ships found their most secure systems being systematically dismantled, then rebuilt with human innovation. Dr. Emily Rodriguez watched the process with scientific fascination. The technological breakthrough wasn't about destruction. It was about understanding, adaptation, and transformation. Computational restructuring at 67%, reported Jennifer Wong, her display showing complex algorithmic patterns that looked more like abstract art than traditional computer code. The human approach to technology was fundamentally different from any civilization the Zorn had encountered. Where other species saw technology as a fixed system, humans saw it as a malleable resource to be constantly reimagined. Aboard the lead Zorn vessel, Admiral Krelax received increasingly panicked reports. Their most advanced communication systems were being systematically repurposed. Weapon control networks transformed into information conduits. Defensive systems became channels of cultural exchange. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Colonel Jack Harper understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to technological intelligence. A research team in Sao Paulo discovered something extraordinary. The alien technological systems, when approached with human creativity, were not just hackable. They were adaptable. Each line of alien code became a potential pathway for innovation. Where the Zorn saw rigid technological structures, humans saw infinite possibilities. We're not breaking their systems, Michael Chen explained to his team. We're teaching them a new way of thinking about technology. Global research facilities that had appeared to be working on separate projects now revealed their true nature. What looked like independent technological development was actually a coordinated global effort. A quantum computing breakthrough in China became integrated with communication network research in Brazil. Machine learning algorithms developed in Kenya found unexpected applications in Canadian climate research. The Zorn attack groups found their most sophisticated technological advantages becoming liabilities. Each attempt to use their advanced systems provided humans with more information, more opportunities for innovation. Weapon systems became sources of scientific discovery. Communication networks transformed into cultural exchange platforms. Dr. Rodriguez understood the profound nature of what was happening. This was more than technological warfare. This was a demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to intelligence. Complete system integration at 82%. Jennifer Wong reported, her voice carrying a hint of excitement. Entire alien ship systems began to be repurposed. Navigation controls became sophisticated research platforms. Weapon systems transformed into communication networks. The Zorn found themselves facing an enemy that didn't just resist, it reimagined. In the streets of Mumbai, a group of young programmers worked with a local university research team. What looked like a simple coding exercise was actually part of a global effort to understand and adapt alien technology. A teenager's innovative approach to machine learning became a critical component of the global defense strategy. Admiral Krelax received a transmission that would forever change his understanding of technological intelligence. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a demand for surrender. It was an invitation to understand. Michael Chen allowed himself a small smile. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was offering the Zorn a completely new way of understanding technology, intelligence, and potential. The technological singularity had begun, and the universe would never be the same again. Massive transmission arrays across the globe began to pulse with a symphony of human complexity. The Zorn found themselves drowning in an ocean of cultural information more devastating than any weapon they had ever encountered. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stood before a wall of holographic displays, each one broadcasting a different facet of human existence. Mathematical theorems danced alongside abstract paintings. Quantum physics lectures merged with hip-hop music. Ancient philosophical debates intertwined with cutting-edge scientific discoveries. "Commence full-spectrum cultural transmission," she commanded. Admiral Krelax watched in growing horror as his fleet's psychological stability began to unravel. The transmissions were unlike anything in the galactic database of conquered civilizations. Each broadcast was a depth charge of intellectual and creative complexity. A transmission from a street artist in Rio de Janeiro became a cryptographic puzzle that challenged the Zorn's most advanced communication decoders. A mathematical proof developed by a research team in Nairobi revealed computational approaches that defied the aliens' understanding of logical reasoning. A piece of experimental music from a Seoul underground club became a sophisticated communication network that scrambled alien tracking systems. Colonel Jack Harper understood the profound nature of their strategy. "We're not just fighting," he explained to his team. "We're demonstrating the true nature of human potential." In Mumbai, a group of poets and programmers worked together to create transmission sequences that were simultaneously art, mathematics, and communication. What looked like a simple creative exercise was actually a sophisticated psychological warfare technique. Each cultural artifact was a multi-layered communication designed to challenge the Zorn's rigid understanding of intelligence. Michael Chen monitored the global transmission network, Cultural Complexity Index at maximum output. He reported, a hint of excitement in his voice. The Zorn communication systems began to experience unprecedented challenges. Their computational models, built on centuries of galactic conquests, started to fragment. How do you analyze a civilization that can simultaneously create advanced mathematical theorems, compose heart-wrenching music, develop revolutionary scientific concepts, and tell intricate stories? A transmission from a small indigenous community in Peru became a breakthrough moment. Their traditional knowledge systems, which blended ecological understanding, spiritual wisdom, and practical survival techniques, created a communication pattern that completely overwhelmed the Zorn's analytical systems. "They're not just sending information," Jennifer Wong observed. "They're sending entire ways of understanding existence." Aboard the lead Zorn vessel, psychological destabilization began to set in. Each transmission revealed a species that thrived on contradiction, creativity, and unbounded potential. The aliens had conquered hundreds of civilizations by understanding their limitations. Humanity presented something entirely different, a species that saw limitations as opportunities for innovation. A jazz improvisation from New Orleans became a complex communication protocol. A mathematical proof from a research facility in Cape Town revealed computational approaches that challenged everything the Zorn understood about logical reasoning. A philosophical debate recorded at a university in Beijing became a sophisticated psychological warfare technique. Dr. Rodriguez watched the global transmission with a sense of profound understanding. This was humanity's true strength, not just technological capability, but the ability to see the universe from infinite perspectives simultaneously. "We're showing them what intelligence really means," she murmured. The cultural transmissions began to exploit the fundamental weaknesses in the Zorn's hierarchical society. Each broadcast was a carefully designed intellectual and emotional challenge. Music that defied traditional harmonic structures. Mathematical proofs that challenged linear reasoning. Philosophical debates that embraced contradiction as a form of understanding. A transmission from a group of elementary school children in Seoul became one of the most sophisticated psychological warfare tools. Their unfiltered creativity, their ability to imagine worlds beyond current understanding, created communication patterns that completely overwhelmed the Zorn's analytical systems. Admiral Krelax received a transmission that would forever change his understanding of intelligent life. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a demand for surrender. It was an invitation to understand, to see the universe through a lens of infinite possibility. The cultural weapon had been deployed, and the Zorn were beginning to understand that they were facing something far beyond their comprehension. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was redefining the very concept of intelligence. Information became the most devastating weapon humanity had ever deployed. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stood at the epicenter of a global communication strategy that defied every known principle of warfare. The mimetic invasion was unlike anything the Zorn had ever encountered. A weaponized form of cultural and intellectual complexity that attacked the very foundations of their societal understanding. "Initiate Phase 2, she commanded, her voice calm and precise. Michael Chen's team had developed communication sequences that were simultaneously art, philosophy, scientific theory, and psychological warfare. Each transmission was a multi-layered puzzle designed to exploit the rigid hierarchical structure of Zorn society. Linguistic experts from around the globe worked in perfect synchronization. A researcher from Lagos collaborated with a communication specialist from Seoul, creating transmission sequences that carried multiple layers of meaning. What appeared to be a simple communication became a sophisticated intellectual weapon. Colonel Jack Harper understood the profound nature of their strategy. "We're not just defending," he explained to his team. "We're challenging their entire concept of intelligence." The first wave of mimetic transmissions targeted the fundamental communication networks of the Zorn fleet. Complex philosophical concepts became viral information packets that spread through their communication systems like an intellectual pandemic. Each transmission carried multiple interpretations, challenging the aliens' binary approach to understanding. A philosophical debate recorded at a university in Buenos Aires became a communication protocol that completely scrambled Zorn analytical systems. The nuanced arguments, which embraced contradiction and multiple perspectives, created information patterns that the aliens could not comprehend. Mimetic Complexity Index reaching maximum output, Jennifer Wong reported, her display showing intricate information networks that looked more like living organisms than traditional communication systems. Aboard the lead Zorn vessel, Admiral Krelax watched in growing confusion. Their most sophisticated communication filters began to fail. Each transmission carried layers of meaning that defied their computational models. A simple artistic expression became a complex communication protocol. A mathematical proof transformed into a psychological warfare technique. In Sao Paulo, a group of artists, programmers, and philosophers worked together to create transmission sequences that were intellectual depth charges. What looked like a creative exercise was actually a carefully designed strategy to destabilize the Zorn's rigid communication systems. The mimetic invasion exploited a fundamental weakness in the alien civilization: The Zorn understood information as a linear hierarchical system. Humanity presented something entirely different. Information as a living, breathing, constantly evolving entity. A transmission from a small indigenous community in New Zealand became a breakthrough moment. Their traditional knowledge systems, which blended ecological understanding, spiritual wisdom, and practical survival techniques, created communication patterns that completely overwhelmed the Zorn's analytical systems. They're experiencing cognitive dissonance, Dr. Rodriguez observed, watching the alien communication networks begin to fragment. Each Zorn ship found its communication systems becoming increasingly unstable. Weapon control networks began to receive transmissions that were simultaneously scientific theories, artistic expressions, and philosophical challenges. A single transmission could contain multiple layers of meaning that would take traditional computational systems years to unravel. A jazz improvisation from New Orleans became a sophisticated communication protocol. A mathematical proof from a research facility in Cape Town revealed computational approaches that challenged everything the Zorn understood about logical reasoning. A philosophical debate from a Beijing university transformed into a psychological warfare technique. Michael Chen allowed himself a small smile. Humanity was demonstrating that true intelligence was about embracing complexity, not controlling it. The mimetic invasion reached its peak when transmissions began to target the fundamental social structures of the Zorn civilization. Each communication carried the potential to challenge their most basic understanding of hierarchy, intelligence, and existence. Admiral Krillax received a transmission that would forever change his understanding of intelligent life. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a demand for surrender. It was an invitation to understand, to see the universe through a lens of infinite possibility. Some Zorn ships began to experience complete communication breakdown. Their most sophisticated systems became overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of human communication. What should have been a simple invasion had transformed into an intellectual challenge that threatened the very foundations of their civilization. Humanity wasn't just defending itself, it was redefining the very concept of communication, intelligence, and potential. The mimetic invasion had begun, and the universe would never be the same again. The true nature of human strength emerged not as a unified military force, but as a dynamic, living intelligence that defied every conventional understanding of planetary defense. Colonel Jack Harper watched the global response from the Rocky Mountain Command Center, a living network of human potential spreading across the planet like an intelligent organism. What the Zorn perceived as human weakness, their cultural diversity, political differences, and complex social structures, became their most powerful defensive mechanism. Global collaborative response at maximum efficiency, Michael Chen reported, his voice carrying a sense of wonder. Different human groups began to integrate their unique capabilities with unprecedented speed. A research team in Mumbai connected with indigenous knowledge keepers in the Amazon. Quantum physicists in Seoul synchronized their computational models with street programmers in Lagos. A group of artists in Rio de Janeiro developed communication strategies with cybersecurity experts from Tel Aviv. Dr. Emily Rodriguez understood the profound nature of what was happening. This was not a traditional defense. This was a planetary immune system in its most advanced form. In Chicago, a neighborhood watch group transformed into a sophisticated communication node. Former rivals, tech workers, community organizers, retired military personnel worked with a coordination that bewildered the alien observers. Each person brought a unique skill set, creating a defensive network more complex than any centralized command structure. "We're not fighting as individual units," Colonel Harper explained to his team. "We're functioning as a single adaptive intelligence." The Zorn attack groups found themselves facing an impossible scenario. Every predictive model collapsed when confronted with human collaborative potential. A community center in Sao Paulo became a research hub. A fishing village in Indonesia developed a sophisticated sensor network. A school in Nairobi generated computational strategies that challenged the most advanced alien technologies. Jennifer Wong's display showed the global collaborative network, a living, breathing system that moved with liquid grace. Communication pathways that should have been disrupted became more robust. Infrastructure that should have been destroyed became more complex. A transmission from a group of high school students in Cape Town revealed a breakthrough in adaptive communication. Their approach combined elements of machine learning, cultural exchange, and creative problem-solving that completely overwhelmed the Zorn's analytical systems. Admiral Krillax watched in growing confusion. The humans were not responding like any civilization they had ever encountered. Where other species would fracture under pressure, humanity seemed to become more unified, more creative, more adaptive. In the streets of Mumbai, a remarkable scene unfolded. A street vendor, a quantum physicist, a local artist, and a retired military strategist worked together to develop a communication strategy. Their diverse backgrounds became a strength, not a weakness. Each person brought a unique perspective that contributed to a larger, more complex understanding. Collaborative Intelligence Index reaching maximum potential. Michael Chen announced, his fingers moving across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living data. The global response defied traditional military understanding. It was not about individual heroism or centralized command. It was about a collective intelligence that could adapt faster than any computational system could predict. A research facility in Cambridge developed a communication protocol that merged scientific theory with artistic expression. A community center in New Orleans became a hub of adaptive strategy development. A small indigenous community in Peru contributed ecological knowledge that transformed defensive capabilities. Dr. Rodriguez watched the global response with scientific fascination. We're demonstrating that true intelligence is about collaboration, not competition, she murmured. The Zorn found themselves facing a fundamental challenge to their understanding of intelligent life. Humanity was not a single entity, but a complex, adaptive network. Each attempted strike provided more information, more opportunities for collective innovation. Colonel Harper understood the deeper strategy. This was a demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to existence. Where the Zorn saw hierarchy and control, humans saw potential and collaboration. We're not just defending, he told his team. We're showing them a new way of understanding intelligence. Some Zorn ships began to experience complete system breakdown as they confronted this unprecedented form of collective intelligence. Their most sophisticated tracking systems became overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of human collaboration. The collaborative organism had fully emerged. Humanity was no longer just defending itself. It was redefining the very concept of intelligence, cooperation, and potential. The universe would never be the same again. The final confrontation was not a battle of weapons, but a collision of understanding. Admiral Krillax stood on the bridge of the lead Zorn vessel, watching as humanity's true nature unfolded before him. What had begun as a routine planetary conquest had transformed into something far beyond any galactic experience. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stepped forward, her transmission cutting through the alien communication networks with unprecedented clarity. This is not about victory, she began, her voice carrying the weight of collective human potential. This is an invitation to understand. The Rocky Mountain Command Center became the epicenter of a communication strategy that would reshape galactic civilization. Colonel Jack Harper and Michael Chen worked in perfect synchronization, their team representing the most diverse collection of human potential ever assembled. Final transmission sequence prepared, Chen announced, his fingers moving across holographic interfaces that seemed to pulse with living intelligence. The remaining Zorn ships found themselves at a crossroads. Their computational models had completely collapsed. Every attempt to understand human behavior had failed. What they had perceived as a primitive civilization revealed itself as the most complex form of intelligence they had ever encountered. A transmission from a research facility in Cape Town merged scientific theory with philosophical insight. A communication protocol developed by a group of artists in Rio de Janeiro became a sophisticated negotiation strategy. An ecological understanding shared by an indigenous community in New Zealand provided a framework for interspecies communication. Jennifer Wong's display showed the global network of human potential, a living, breathing system that defied every known principle of galactic interaction. Communication pathways that should have been impossible became not just functional, but revolutionary. "We are offering you a choice," Dr. Rodriguez transmitted. The message was simultaneously a diplomatic communication, a scientific proposal, and a philosophical invitation. Understand us, or be neutralized. Some Zorn ships began to change. Their rigid communication systems started to adapt, to transform. What had been a conquest fleet became a potential learning opportunity. The most advanced vessels began to receive human transmissions not as a threat, but as an invitation to a new way of understanding existence. Admiral Krelax experienced something unprecedented in his centuries of galactic conquest. Doubt. Curiosity. A fundamental challenge to everything he understood about intelligence and potential. The global human response was not a military strategy. It was a collective demonstration of what intelligence could truly mean. A street vendor in Mumbai contributed to a communication strategy as effectively as a quantum physicist in Seoul. A group of high school students in Nairobi developed a computational approach that challenged the most advanced alien technologies. "We are not asking you to surrender," Colonel Harper's transmission explained. "We are asking you to understand." The final moments of the confrontation became a remarkable display of human potential. Each Zorn ship received not just a defensive response, but a comprehensive understanding of human civilization. Mathematical theorems danced alongside artistic expressions. Scientific discoveries merged with philosophical insights. Cultural traditions became sophisticated communication protocols. Some Zorn vessels began to transform. Their weapon systems became research platforms. Their communication networks became channels of cultural exchange. What had been a conquest fleet became a potential learning opportunity. Dr. Rodriguez understood the profound nature of what was happening. "This is not about winning," she explained to her team. "This is about expanding the understanding of intelligence itself." The transmission from Earth carried multiple layers of meaning. It was a defensive strategy, a scientific proposal, a philosophical invitation, and a demonstration of collective potential. Each communication carried the complexity of human existence, its contradictions, its creativity, its unbounded potential. Admiral Krelax received the final transmission. It was not a threat. It was not a demand for surrender. It was an invitation to understand, to see the universe through a lens of infinite possibility. Some Zorn became the first ambassadors of a new galactic consciousness. They would carry back a fundamental understanding that would reshape their entire civilization. Humanity was not just a species to be conquered. It was a revolutionary form of intelligence that challenged every existing concept of potential. The Rocky Mountain Command Center erupted in a moment of quiet celebration. They had not just defended the planet. They had demonstrated a new way of understanding existence. Colonel Harper looked at his team, a diverse group representing the most complex intelligence in the known galaxy. "We've done more than survive," he said simply. "We've shown them what it means to truly be alive. The universe would never be the same again." Revelation Day had arrived.